Welcome to Yeukai Business Show, UK's premier business show where we feature business thought leaders, high achievers, and industry experts. Today's episode is brought to you by World Outsourcing Solutions Limited, a company that specializes in helping executive business owners with virtual assistant services and business growth systems. Here's your host.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. It's Trevor Stockwell with you today. Now, Malcolm, our guest on this episode, is a successful entrepreneur who spent all of his working life in the tech industry. With an expertise in creating software development companies, he's sold products in over 70 countries. He has a deep passion to discover more about how the world works now, and since retiring from the tech industry, he spends his time traveling. He's also a speaker and has authored multiple books on business and travel adventures, and he's here to tell us more. So welcome, Malcolm Teasdale.
Hello, and thank you for having me. Very happy to be here.
No, it's great to have the opportunity to chat with you. Maybe just to kick us off, share a little bit about your background and your journey that's brought you through the business world to the point where you're now free to do more or less what you want, aren't you?
Yeah, for a start, I am fortunate, I must admit. But I grew up in England, by the way, Coventry, England. And I went through the normal, I won't say process, but the normal way of being raised as a kid. My parents were World War II veterans. And yes, I did go to school in Coventry and finished and got a job, went to college. I did all of that and even started a disco in my late teens and in my 20s and DJ'd a couple of times a week. But that's back. Once I got in the working environment, I joined a company and worked for a few technical companies along the way. And my first taste of, I should say, work overseas was actually, I was offered a position in Canada, Ottawa, Canada, which I took and emigrated to Canada for only 2 years, primarily because, not the weather, great city, by the way, but picture this, I landed in January of 1982 and the snow never went away until May. Eventually I moved back and lived in South Wales, which is great, actually, in the Wye Valley of South Wales. Then I was going to leave to join a technology company in the country of Papua New Guinea. And you probably think, oh, that's really weird. Well, it's what I wanted to do at the time. However, before I did that, the company I worked with offered me a transfer to Florida. And I thought, well, yeah, I'll do that. I get to see the States. And I knew I'd be traveling here in the United States because of the introduction of a new product my company had just developed. So I moved over here and got to see a lot of the United States. And it was very enjoyable. I didn't spend much time at home, but I was single. After a few years, myself and a colleague of mine were discussing, I'm giving you the highlights, by the way. We're discussing about a product we thought we could develop ourselves that could be a little bit better than what our existing company offered at the time. However, our existing company were more interested in the bigger side of their portfolio. They didn't want to invest more resources into developing the product we had dreams for, which was sort of management information, so to speak. So myself and my colleague ended up leaving, and we brought some people on board. We started developing a product, and then we knew it had potential. And then we went off and started selling it to distributors, dealers around the nation. Our aim was to do as well as we could, and we landed up bringing people on board. And it became successful, and to the point we got a bit of a foothold in North America. And then the big thing which really made us is we ventured into the international market. I say that because sometimes companies or startups don't even consider that, but it's very important. It was to us. So that was it. We branched out into the international market. And from then on, we grew, and we did sell products into 70 or 80 countries, and we have offices in 4 countries. And we had a pretty substantial workforce, a lot of software engineers who wrote software, which we pulled out of university and, give them all kinds of incentives. And eventually we came to the position, unbeknownst to us, it wasn't exactly something we were thinking of at the time. We became a target for acquisition. So eventually, and after various other episodes along the way, we sold our company. And because my partner, he wanted to bail out, he was a bit older than me. So, yeah, and that's exactly what we did. So that's the story briefly is I can make it, but starting off in the workplace, then branching out on my own to the point where we sold the company. So the classic example of this is from startup to acquisition. That's exactly what our story is.
Yeah, that's amazing, actually. Yeah, just to hear that as you're sort of taking the steps through the journey as well. Just we'll dig into a bit more about international business a little bit later. But curious, really, from what you said about your journey there, was the disco side of it, was that the first start of sort of entrepreneurship, or was that just I need some money before I really get into work, and it all sort of birthed in you a bit later?
Well, when we started the disco, I didn't know what the word entrepreneurship was. Didn't even enter my head. But what we did, we created what we call a mobile discotheque. You've heard of those around Britain, and where we used to do private functions. Then we got residences at a couple of nightclubs. So we were doing that 5 times a week. And we had a daytime job. So I managed to get 4 hours of sleep each night, which that's what we want when we're in the early 20s, right?
Yeah.
And so, but being able to manage that, and then we had 2 road shows going at the same time, and we brought in some extra help. There's 4 of us at the end of the day and helped to lug the gear around. So that was our first taste of it, if you wish. But we didn't realize that at the time. Yeah. But it was probably the first thing we did that, well, we are going to make the right decisions here and invest in equipment and try and make customers happy. So sort of in a funny kind of way, it taught us something.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we can't do that all the time. We had to, obviously it would be ridiculous to think that we could make a full-time job of this. And, well, you could, but we didn't want to. And we were back in the world of business. And but every little bit helps along the way.
Yeah. Everything is a learning opportunity, isn't it, really, that can start towards the next step. So no, that's interesting. Maybe just one of the things I'm keen to talk to you about is one of the attractive features of the company that you sold was the skilled workforce, wasn't it? You managed to bring the right people in and develop them to the point where they were then sort of optimized. Yeah. What would be some of the things for maybe some of the business owners that are struggling to either find the right people for their team, or just, I've got loads of people, but for some reason it's just not gelling, it's not working? Any tips that you could share that from your experience that could help them?
Well, the most important thing, what made us right for acquisition, was all the intellectual property we had, basically the code. And because we had 145 people, and there's a lot of software engineers were part of a company, but we brought in a few salespeople as well, which we thought we would never do. But it was quite broad. So everyone had their own special skill set. But the process of bringing in the right people was really important, because having a technology industry, especially with software engineers, if they leave you, then it leaves a bit of a hole, at least for a period of time. So you can bring someone in with the right skill set, not just any software engineer, but someone who knew exactly what our product did. Yeah. So what we did with the employees, we offered them a piece of the company. All right. And most people interested in that, they saw where we were heading. So we said to them, well, you can buy into the company to get some shares. And pretty much everyone did. And it didn't, in theory, lock them in, but they had a vested interest in the company in the hope that it would do well. And they wouldn't have done it if they thought the company was going nowhere. Yeah. So what it did in turn, it created this excellent work ethic, because everyone became close to the team. It was their company as well. Yeah. And it all worked out in the end. So when our company did get acquired, a few people did leave, obviously, because they were more interested in either starting their own, or a few people left and started their own business, and they've done quite well. But, some people weren't interested in working for a larger corporation, but most of them went with the buyer, and I still keep in touch with many of them today. So it was a good story to tell, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of the ultimate buy-in, isn't it? Literally, that you get from staff with a company, which is what you want, isn't it? Because if there's more ownership within the team, then they're obviously going to put more effort in. They're going to be more motivated.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I guess they all help sharpen each other. It's like if somebody's a bit slack one day, some of the others sort of, can help them refocus, shall we say.
Well, on top of that, every 6 months we had performance evaluations. We had a human resources department. Yeah. Something else we never thought we would do, but eventually we did because we had to. Yeah. And we did performance evaluations that we laid out what we expected from everybody and hoping they would achieve that. It seemed the logical thing to do. Yeah. So, we didn't want anyone who's working ridiculous amount of hours and too hard, and there's someone else in the company not pulling their weight. We try to steer away from that. Yeah. And so all these little things helped along the way.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think company culture is fascinating. I think it's a challenge at any time, really. But it's good to know. It's good to hear people that have built it in such a way that it works. What would you say, maybe just the last point on this, but what would be one or some of the mistakes that business owners, leaders make with regards to managing staff?
Could you just repeat that again, please? What?
Yeah, what are some of the mistakes that business owners and leaders make when it comes to managing staff?
I would say communication is a big issue, right? You can't just bring on an employee and just say, yeah, we're going to give you a job here, off you go and do it. So training is important. Yeah. Camaraderie, get them involved with the company. We used to have town hall meetings. Many of them were virtual town hall meetings every month. It just showed the progress of the company. Everyone, head of a department, used to show statistics of how far they were along in development or sales, how we're doing for sales and where we sold product. Everyone was part of the team, which is important. And I think the realization of that every employee of a company becomes important. Don't just bring a person on board and ignore them. Make them or put them in a position where they have absolutely no reason to leave.
That's really good. Yeah, I like the way you've put that. Yeah, no, it's good. I remember being part of a company where they used to, the monthly meetings where we used to share the, financial status of the company as well. It was quite a small consultancy, so yeah, it's very close. And yeah, to me, it made a lot of difference knowing that, hey, maybe, this month we're actually a bit lower than what we'd forecasted. So, we need to put extra effort in, or, other things might then affect decisions that are made because of that. Just having that insight and the fact that it was communicated from the board, I think for me as an employee at the time, it just made a huge difference. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got to be aware that I may paint a rosy picture, but it wasn't rosy all the time because there's bumps along the way. Yeah. And some people did leave along the way because they wanted to either move away to a different part of the country or start something on their own, or they wanted a more secure job. They had a family. There was all these reasons. Yeah. Not many left. But did we get threatened with lawsuits? Yes. Did we get unhappy customers? Of course, there were a few along the way. It's always going to be that. You just have to be able to deal with it. And I've said to many people, and we have some very good qualified people academically, by the way, in our company. But as I said to a few people, the best degree in the world you can have is a degree of common sense. Yeah. Right? Yeah. You can have bright people that come out of university, but they probably don't have that, I'd say business mind, but the common sense approach to the workplace. So we're aware of that. Well, we were aware of that eventually. And we built a good team. So
yeah, no, it's good. It's business is everybody comes and goes at some point, don't they, through different stages of their careers. It's very rare that people stay in companies for a huge amount of time.
No.
It's just part of life, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's good though. I mean, when people, if someone came to me for an interview and say they were 40 odd years old and they've been in the workplace for 20 years and they probably just had one job in that, I'd be maybe a little bit concerned about that. You know, just my thought. So they've been around and done quite well in different countries. Likely in their quest to do better or be better, they've learnt more along the way. You know, you have different opinions about people. We pick people up, obviously, as I said, a few graduates out of university straight away, and they fit in the company quite well, and they stayed around for quite some time. So that's all good.
Yeah, it does bring stability when you find people that do that. So that's good. Let's dig into another part of your expertise, in the sense of you speak a lot about the importance of international business. So
right.
Maybe for people that are listening that are more locally focused, whichever country they're in, but is there a need for them to reach out internationally? Is that suitable for everyone? Is it just certain things, certain products, services reach further better? Or what would be your take on that?
I mentioned that to a few people before, and often the question is why, or it could be a little bit intimidating to people. When I talk about, we thought we had a product that would be appropriate for the international market. And it was, but it doesn't come easy. You have to invest some time and money into it. Now, because I was in North America, my intention was to focus attention on that area of the world, which is time zone friendly, and that included Latin America or South America, those markets, which is the start of things. We're already set in USA and Canada, but to set up into Latin America, it's time zone friendly. So that worked. But when I had a technical company, but what ultimately was important is that we took the time to translate our software into different languages. All right. And so for Latin America, we had 2 versions of Spanish and a version of Portuguese. Right. So you can't imagine someone using our product at their desktop and everything's written in English. It would be unusable to a lot of people, obviously. So once we decided to venture into that market, looked around for companies that would like to sell our product. And these were quite capable companies that were quite well established in their market who could use our product as an add-on to their existing customer base, so to speak, or they just interested in what we do. And they saw an opportunity where they can make money and in turn we can make money. But the requirement was to translate our product into the local language there. And so we started off there. And then we obviously capitalized on Europe, especially the UK, because I'm from there. And that was easy. Then we branched out into various areas of Europe, Africa even, especially South Africa, then Asia. Now, Asia specifically, to me, was sort of important, but it's not time zone friendly. The Asian culture is that they will do business with you via face-to-face meetings, So what I did, in an effort to kickstart our business in the APAC region, I moved to Singapore.
Okay, yeah.
And we moved there in 2007, 2008. It was a great place to live, by the way. But that was my little headquarters there in Singapore, where I could travel around the region there and promote the business. And that's including Australia and New Zealand as well. So that all worked out well, where we started to kickstart our operation over there. Now, again, it meant translation into foreign languages. We had our product translated in 2 versions of Chinese, by the way, amongst others, Dutch, French, Spanish, amongst others. But the key here is that it wasn't just a case of going over there. There's to be successful in international business, you've got to want to do it. you've got to have, I say the finances, but it's relative, but the drive to do it. What I did is I learned a little bit about the foreign business culture, learn about how these people did business, right? But only in addition to that, I learned a little bit about the history of the country I was going to and the people.
Yeah.
So when I went to a foreign country, the automobile, like China, for example, and went to Beijing, and I sat in front of a panel of Chinese businessmen explaining why they should do business with us, which is fine, but it's like many cultures in the world. You've got to show interest in their culture and a little bit about the place you're going to. And even if it's just India, say, I went to the Taj Mahal. It's an amazing story. But they already know this, but it shows that I'm interested in their country and their culture and a little bit about the history. All those little pieces do help.
Yeah.
Right? So those were it's another check mark, by the way. And then to be able to support these business in these countries, both from a sales support standpoint and a technical support standpoint, was also necessary. And that worked out in the end.
Yeah. No, it's good. Yeah. I like what you said. It's finding a connection, isn't it, with your potential clients, your new clients from a different culture or different country, locality, or their perspective on life and business is different, isn't it? So it's finding some middle ground that, just makes it more of a gel, isn't it? More of a connection, I think, to then do business together. So that's good.
It didn't work out every time, I must admit. I mean, there were times I tried to do some business internationally and it didn't quite gel, maybe because the company I met with weren't sort of geared up enough. It wasn't going to work out. That's all right. You just walk away from it. But generally speaking, it did work out. It was a successful move for us. Yeah. And of course, when you get product into a lot of countries, we ultimately had offices in 4 countries, then it looks good. There's another piece to the puzzle of, I'm not saying we didn't realize at the time, but it made us attractive for an acquisition. That's another piece to the puzzle, so to speak.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I'm kind of curious as well, as you were sharing that, because I know you like travel as well. Was the idea of sort of moving to Singapore to grow the business in that area, was that also mixed with the bit of exploration as well, or did that sort of interest come a little bit later?
Well, did it seem a bit selfish? Yeah, it probably did. But I'd been to Asia for quite a few times before, and I knew, like, Singapore's modern, right? It's one of the most affluent places on the planet. It's just class act, and just stay there was enlightening. Yeah. But because I enjoyed traveling over there, I knew that there's got to be a market over here somewhere. It has to be, and there was, and they were open to dealing or working with me, and even though we're based in North America, it worked out fine. And why not? They're out to make money just as we are, and they got a market there. So, but yes, by that time, I must admit, I was a bit of a travel addict. Yeah. But all that time, I built up all these miles from travel, but it was mainly through business travel and stuff like that. And if I had to go away on business somewhere, wherever it was, I'd also plan to go ahead a couple of days earlier or stay behind after the meetings, just so I can learn more about the place. So it was a little holiday before or after I'd been to a meeting in a foreign country. So I made the most of it.
Yeah. And also, if you do things beforehand, it can feed into the conversation as well, can't it? With as you're connecting with people. So that's really good. What would you say? You've mentioned a couple of the sort of pitfalls already about if we don't learn about the culture, if we don't find companies that maybe you could leverage with and work with to go into a new zone or a new country. Any other pitfalls that you could think of that would help anybody listening if they're thinking, listening to Malcolm, that's what I need to do. What do I need to do next?
Well, are you talking about international business specifically?
sort of breaking into a new territory.
Yeah. I would say you've got to be prepared to go there. To try and do 100% of this and be successful remotely is not going to work.
Yeah.
A lot of companies say they have to have a personal relationship with you, a good one, before they even trust you to do business. So that is really important. To do it over a phone, no, because they're spending a lot of money. They're investing much of their money. They're investing a lot of their time to do this. They've got to feel that trust. And it works both ways, doesn't it? Right? So, yeah, a couple of times it didn't work out, but most of the time it sort of did. You just instill this trust in them. And if they want to, take you on board, you've got to be prepared. I'm telling you a funny story here because this has to come into it to play. You need to be prepared to sort of even enjoy socializing with them, as a willing participant of a business meeting. I remember being in Mexico City. They started unbelievable work ethic there. We started work at 8:30 in the morning, having different sales meetings with companies. And I was getting tired. It was 2:30 in the afternoon, and the guy I was with is the GM of the company. Said, "Mal, let's just go. I know a place we go for lunch, right?" So it was sort of down a back street somewhere. So we had some great Mexican food. He said, "I don't know if you had tequila, Malcolm, but this is my favorite tequila. Do you want to try?" So, "Oh, what the hell, yeah." So we had a shot of tequila. I said, "Hey, good meetings there. Yeah. Let's have another one." So 4 tequilas later, he said, "Oh, yeah, we got a couple of more sales meetings to go to." I said, "What?" "Yes, indeed." Right there, he got on the phone. I said, "Yeah, we're coming by. We'll see you in about 30 minutes. I thought, and I wanted to say to him, Mario's name, I don't say, "No, we should tell me that before." But it's all right. It's okay. The fact we did it, and, we had these 2 meetings later on until 8:00 in the evening. I was pretty well exhausted, but it showed that willingness to participate in their culture, knowing full well that he could trust me to probably with other stuff as well.
Yeah.
Seemed a bit strange, but I got through the day.
Yeah, it's like saying it, when in Rome, do what the Romans do, I suppose. Yeah, that's really good. Tell us a little bit. We've got a few more minutes left.
Yeah.
You've got lots of insight, so I really appreciate you sharing it. But tell us a little bit about some of the books that you've written.
The first one I wrote, my mother, when she was alive, she said, "Write a book, Malcolm." I said, "Why?" She said, "So you can read it later on in life." I said, "Okay, well, why?" She said, "When you're lying in your deathbed and they're going to pull the plug on you, read the book. It's like having photographs and videos." Oh, that makes sense. She never did it herself, by the way. So I started writing a book about business travel. And then I wrote a couple of more about business travel, not really logistics about how to get there and all that. It's about the experiences gained on the way there. Yeah. And some of these are before I even started a business on my own. Much of them are about starting business, like doing business in the Caribbean. Yeah, I came home to the wife, said, "I've got to go to the Cayman Islands on business." She said, "Oh, right, of course you are." Yes. But these are true stories. And I worked on contract for the US government. I was in Moscow for the last days of the Soviet Union's existence. There's a bit about that in there as well. So all these little things about my experiences of travel, a little bit about the cultural adjustment and trying to get on with the local business people, and the successes and the failures are all in there, right? So those were the first, I'd say, 2 to 3 books. One of them I wrote while I was living in Asia. It's called Asia Specific. But the last 2 I wrote was once we were acquired, I spent a lot of time on the road doing adventure travel, going to really obscure places. And the last 2 books I've written about that, just going off the beaten track and going to these places that no one else would, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So that's basically what I've done. For selfish reasons, I wanted to do it myself because, yeah, I'm a travel addict. So that's why I do it.
Yeah.
Just still doing it today.
No, it's good. Yeah, it's good. It's all the experiences that we have in life that it helps us become deeper people, if that's the right word to use. Just we learn more about ourselves, we learn more about other people as well, don't we? So it's interesting to hear about some of your experiences.
That's why I do it, because I have to learn something new every day. The travel it's not a vacation, it's a vacation of course, but I love it because I learn something about the places I go to and the people who live there, the way they run their lives each day. It's very enjoyable for me. I love doing it.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good that you've done well to get to the point where you can do that, having built the business and then sold it on. Now you're able to spend how you want to spend your time, really, which is what entrepreneurship is all about, really, isn't it? Being our own bosses and picking what we do when, really.
Yeah.
So that's good. Well done. There's lots we can learn from you. We are sort of at the end of our time together now, but before we wrap it up, how can people find you, or what's the best way if they want to find out more about what you're doing or grab the books?
I would say my website is malcolmjteasdale.com, right?
Okay.
MALCOLMJTEASDALE.com. And in there's a bit about everything. It's got details of books I've written, presentations I've done. Then there's links in there to take you to Amazon or some of the bookstores, and it details my favorites and not so favorites. It details to a degree places I've been. I've got some videos on there I've shot along the way, various places around the world. So that's a good place. I'm on LinkedIn, just Malcolm Teasdale on LinkedIn, or Malcolm might be Malcolm J. Teasdale. I'm on there. Yeah. And I've got a Facebook biz travel called Traveling Addict as well. So those are the key. My email address is malcolmteasdale@gmail.com. Simple as that. And I do have a podcast that is called the Travel Addict. And this is what I started last year to fill in the gaps, I guess, because I can't do I can't travel anywhere, and I couldn't do the shindig on the cruise ships. So I started a podcast, and it's amazing the amount of people I've met that are somewhat the same as me. And I find that quite fulfilling also. So if you're on iTunes or Pandora, Spotify, type in the Travel Addict, you'll see my podcast there. So that's pretty much it.
Sounds good. No, it's good. There's lots of different ways people can connect with you as well. And there's lots that we can learn from you, sort of from your experiences. You've kind of touched the tip of the iceberg today, just in the short time we've had. But yeah, at least people can head to the site, find out more, follow your adventures through your books as well. And just, there'll be different ways that you can help people to build their businesses or get to the point where they sell them on, depending how involved you want to be, of course. But no, that's really good. Thank you for what you shared today. I always find it interesting chatting to guests and their experiences, and all the insight that you shared as well can help everyone listening. So appreciate your time with us today. Well,
thank you very much for having me. Very happy I talked with you. And
it's been great. No, it's really good.
Paths will cross again one day. You never know.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's always good if you come back again. We'll chat again. Definitely.
All right.
So for everybody listening, definitely check out Malcolm's website. First off, there'll be a link below wherever you're listening to this. There'll be a link through to his site, and then you can find him on the other platforms from there. But have a look around, check out the videos, check out the podcast and the books that he does, and learn from his insight, learn from his experience. I'm sure you'll have lots of different things that can help you from there. So thanks for joining us. We will catch you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to Yeukai Business Show. We will be back to bring you more episodes with success stories and advice straight from the experts. Want more? Check out www.yeukai.businessshow.com. Get your free trial of our virtual assistant service today. Just visit www.worldoutsourcingsolutions.com. Quote WOS18 or send us an email at support@worldoutsourcingsolutions.com.